Hello, hello, this is Arcades, and welcome to another tips and tricks build video here on Stormworks Build and Rescue. And I saw something come up on another video, and I thought I'd address one way you can solve it. And it happened to be a creator had an issue with electrical motors, and only one propeller was spinning. I've had this issue happen in the past. It led me to understanding a few things about electrical. Now, this is not going to be an in-depth thing about electrical power or anything like that, because that's an interesting can of worms. But for the most part, I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible, so that if you come across this yourself, you might be able to. It might be a solution to what your problem is. So, yeah. So sit back, relax. Hope you enjoy what you watch. Hope you like what you see. If you do, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Helps out the channel immensely. And, yeah. Let's get into this. Okay. Like I said, let me show you real quick what's going on. Okay, so, the thing is, this boat that I've built, it's an older boat, and I retrofitted it a little bit. You see, we have two large electric motors down there. I've got, 3 large batteries. One powers the systems for the boat, and the other two are connected in such a way for what I'm going to show you, that they power the 2 electric motors right now. And this is the issue that I have seen and experienced that happens when you go to try to drive with the scenario. You'll get going, but you'll notice the motor on the left, which drives those 2 propellers, aren't moving, but the one on the right is. Now, if we go down to the actual area, notice that throttle is 1, but the RPS is nothing. But over here, yeah, there we go. RPS is nothing. It's hard to see. As you can see, I got these set up and such. There is some interesting reasons why this happens, because if I go and flip the switch in the setup, which I explain how and why, I flip that switch, they balance out. Like, wait. How did you do that? How did just flipping a switch? Well, that's the thing, because if I flip it back, it goes back to this. And as you can see, it starts going back down and just bouncing to one side. Funny thing is what if I told you that these, with the flip of the switch, I'm actually disconnecting, or I'm actually hooking all these things together, and while it's true, it has them combined as one circuit, but when this is false, it splits them to 2 separate circuits, power circuits. Yeah, that's the interesting part. It's a little back-asswards, but yeah. Let's get to the bench, and I'll explain a little bit more what's going on. Okay, so we're here in the bench. We're going to come down here, and as you can see, here's the 2 main batteries. Yes, I know I have a lot of electrics, but those are just for looks right now. And the same thing for all this back here. Now, I have everything disconnected. So, what would you do normally if you wanted to power these motors? Most people would probably just go from here to here to here and here, doing that. But what that ends up doing is where you end up having this situation where you have one motor not getting enough, isn't operating, even though it's connected to the system, and you're looking at the charge of those batteries and they have enough charge. But like, why? The thing I've been trying to tell people is that there's one visible stat and one hidden stat on a battery. There's a charge output, or a charge and then there's power output. The charge is what you see off of here. And its overall charge level to a battery is relevant to its power output. So basically, the lower the level of the charge, the lower the power output. You can see this to an extent over time, and generally it makes the large ones feel more powerful than the small ones. However, from all the stuff I've seen, is a large battery and a small battery and the medium batteries all have the same potential power output. So these can put out the same. The difference being is these guys have a smaller charge and go through it faster, so thus their output declines faster because of the faster degradation, because how fast they drain out of their thing. So basically, it's like imagining a water wheel, and you have a bucket of water. You go pour that bucket of water out over top the water wheel to make it spin. As your bucket runs out of water, there's less energy of that water coming out of the bucket, and thus makes it harder to, so it doesn't have as much energy to spin that wheel. That's the best way I can put it right now. So, and then each part has its own demand of the amount of power that it needs to perform its action. So the large electric motors require a lot. And the funny thing is more than what one battery can provide. So just having two large electric batteries isn't enough to supply two large electric motors, as we just saw. But if you actually come in here, and let's say we just split this connection right here, so that there's one battery on one electric motor. So one battery to one motor, you will actually get this result. We get going again. And you'll see that both are running without an issue. And you see both batteries are being drained, and the RPS is running pretty much the same. So they have their individual tolerances for how they're interacting with the water at the individual moment, but you know, hey, it's close enough, it's pretty much spot on. So now there's one other thing we need to address, is why does it always choose the one motor over the other? Because it's trying to satisfy one motor, then the other motor. Why doesn't it automatically split? I think this has to deal with how the game saves it in an XML file, which is basically a big text document. And because the one motor on the right inside the workbench this one right here, I placed it first in the build. So because it was placed first, it's gaining all the electrical first, and then anything left over gets sent over to this one. Now, here comes the real issue, is that while it's all nice and good to have these guys on their separate circuits, how are you supposed to recharge them? Because most systems that people build will end up putting, like, you know, a generator, say like they get a, you know, just like a medium generator like this. Most people will want to put it like this. And what is the problem with this? Well, this puts all these batteries and motors all on one circuit. Which means you'll just have the same effect again, to where this one motor will just take all the power, including all the power from the generator. Now, if this is going hard enough, then yeah, it'll supply all the electricity, and the excess will get sent over here to start powering it up, but that doesn't mean this will actually get up to full speed like this one. So what's a solution? Well, to have these all together on one circuit without... Now, as I mentioned earlier, all the batteries, from my testing, my personal testing, has shown they carry the same output. So if that's being the case, you just need to add more batteries. And in this case, we have a row of 10 small batteries. Ignore those. So we take, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to use a circuit breaker, and the circuit breaker will keep these as separate circuits. Then we're going to grab here. I've got each of these small batteries on their own circuit breaker as well for the demonstration. And we're going to connect them to these right here. Now I'm going to put this battery hooked up to these 5, and this battery up to the other 5. In this manner. And this is what I had when I showed you the earlier part. So as it stands, when we start off, both of these will be on their own circuit, because this circuit breaker will not be tripped and will allow it to flow separately. These haven't been added to the system yet because their breakers are also false. And then I'll go downstairs and I'll show you how each of them can influence the system. I can't speak today. 2, 1. Okay, so we're already underway. You can see propellers are spinning, so we got equal. And this is false right now, so they're not connected on the same grid, and these are all false as well. So, and as you can see, this is monitoring the RPS of these things right here. And as you can see, it's pretty much equal. The moment I click these together, we have that odd split again. Well, if I come over here, and we go ahead and flick this one, this one, this one. Now we're starting to get power on the other side. Like that one. More power. More power. See, they're starting to balance out. And another one. And now we're at equal again. And then one more for good measure. So as I kept adding these batteries to the circuit, it evened out the demand. But when we split them, notice not really much of a difference. If I go and kill these 5, we still got enough work going on here, so it's being happy, I guess. Bring that back. And you see, it just starts taking from that side, flip it again, so on and so forth. So, I have one more demonstration, and to show you that this is actually a power separate from charge, I have one more demonstration. Okay, so we have this one, but I also have this setup right here. Basically, I took the back half of that boat, replaced those propellers with these propellers, and as you can see, I have a lot of gearboxes here on 3-to-1. Now notice, these all say 0, so they're not getting any electric right now. Now the reason why I have it spawned here at the base is that these static bases, when you spawn batteries there, they maintain a charge of 1. So they get infinite electric onto the battery, but not onto the parts, such as displays, gearboxes, and the like. So that means charge is not going to be a issue here. Now the reason why I swapped them out for the propellers is because once you know that propellers out of water don't really put a load on the system. But a propeller, an aircraft propeller, with a full collective, will. And I added a whole bunch of gearboxes. These are all 3-to-1s to increase that load. So that way there will be a load put onto these motors. Because that was a hard thing to try to actually figure out, was how to put a load on these motors while it's sitting up here. But there is. And the numbers aren't going to be as high as over there. It's only going to be like in the small decimals, but it will be there. Okay, so now this has the same exact setup as I just showed back there. So you have, these are on a circuit, they're on a circuit connected with the electric circuit breaker, and each of the batteries have their own circuit breakers to separate them from the system. This right here is controlling the motors, so we're going to go ahead and bring that up. Interesting thing I've noticed is that with the static display of these, like, the rotors won't spin, but they are spinning. But the moment I go to hit that, as they go to interact with them, they'll start spinning. Okay, so as you can see, they're spinning, so they are working, and with their even RPSs at 55.9, 55.9, as you can see, no infinite electric. So I turn on infinite electric, there would be charge, but no infinite electric, no charge. So, okay. So now we know the only thing that's supplying energy to this entire rig is the batteries. Both of these have an RPS of, 6. As you can see, 0.00006. So I'm just going to say 6 RPS for the time being. I go to connect these. As you can see, the secondary one goes down to nothing. Split them again, comes back up. So now they're on their individual circuit. We flip all those. The secondary is now up to 15, or 17. And the primary, this one, is up to 6. I flip the breaker, which will now connect these, and it flips. You got all this coming into here, and the rest gets sent over to the other one on 8. And that's just showing disconnecting and reconnecting on the thing, on the breaker. Sure. Now we just go ahead and add these one at a time, and you'll see that one gets powered up with each and every breaker, and now they're matching, and this one's just for excess. So, and when I break them apart, of course, it still does that. But, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, as I said, when it comes to this, if you have an issue of the imbalance in power, look at whether or not you have enough batteries. Sometimes you just need to add more batteries in general And you can generally fill that in by just using more small batteries. Like, their charge isn't as necessary as the fact they're just there and connected to the system to provide a power outputage for the system to help balance it out. And definitely the particular order that, you know, and if you have just one side going, that's the one you probably placed first in your build and ends up being. There is other factors to the placement that also affects it. Not only just whether it was the first one built, but whether it's more forward in the craft. I've noticed that too in another thing, which I'll be covering at some point. I don't know when, but yeah. So it's not as much of a glitch as it's just a unintended consequence to how the game works. Yeah. And then, yeah, so if you have an imbalance power, try adding more, just adding more batteries and see if that flushes it out. If you add like 10, 20 more small batteries and you have a simple setup like that and it's not doing out, then there might be another problem you need to start asking around help for. If not, and it just starts acting like it should be, then that's all it was. So keep that in mind, and then check out your electrical circuits. Make sure you don't have, like, you know, connections missed or something. So, yeah. So, I'm Arcades. I hope you like what you watch. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, you know the deal. You know the spiel. I know I already said it. This is Arcades, signing out. Have yourself a good day. Whee!